welcome back to another edition of Movies That Move We, where we talk about Black films. So, today I'm bringing one to you. It's been on my radar for a while, and just trying to find the right slot for it in the schedule. This week seemed as good as any, if you know what I'm talking about. So, anyway, we're going to talk about Jason's Lyric. To start, this film had an awesome cast. I'm not going to name everybody because these were all the Black it of the time. Okay, these were some of the hardest working, most visible actors of the time. So we have Jason, who's played by Alan Payne. We got Joshua, played by Bokeem Woodbine. Mad Dog is played by Forrest Whitaker. Gloria, the mother of Jason and Joshua, is played by the late Susan Douglas. Lyric is played by Jada Pinkett. And Lisa Nicole Carson plays Lyric's best friend, Marty. And Tretch is Lyric's brother. His character's name is Alonzo. He is also Marty's boyfriend. That's the basics. Okay, those are the characters you see most on the screen. The film takes place in Houston, Texas, in a community referred to as Third Ward, or the Ward is how you'll hear it referenced in the film. And what was great about the film in general is that it put Black characters at the fore, Black romantic characters up front. And it was one thing that a lot of moviegoers, Black moviegoers, raised issue with, because during that time, what a love scene looked like was the Black guy never got the girl. Black men and women had tense relationships. And all of these types of things promoted the idea that basically Black people couldn't get along with Black people. You got the gangs, you got drugs, you got dads not in the home. This is what was put on, and actually still kind of pushes the narrative today that in real life, Black people don't experience love and romance and healthy relationships. While the setting was like movies of the 90s at that time, where it took place in an urban community where people are struggling to get up and get better, it continued at what was trendy at that time, which is we're going to put gangs in the scene to show people what gangs were like and how it happens. We're going to put an ex-con in here because, this is the reality. And the drug culture, it put that in there as well. So you have all of these hard elements against two people who are just trying to be in love. What doesn't get talked about, people focus on the romance of the story, and it having been roughly 20 years since I've seen this movie, I look at it differently now, as a seasoned viewer. This is less about the romance between Jason and Lyric and more about the relationship between Jason and Joshua. Basically what happens, you'll see flashbacks opening the film of Jason, Joshua, and their father, Mad Dog. And he was a doting father. He would take them out to this field of flowers, and the owner of the property would water these flowers using a plane with sprayers. And so they would stand there and hold their hands out, and they all had a great time. Then Mad Dog went to war, Vietnam War, and he came back a completely different person that Jason, Joshua, and Gloria just didn't feel safe around. He was no longer allowed in the home. He'd lost his leg in war. He didn't get the medical support that he needed when he came out. And he just was not good to the family. It usually ended up that he would harm the mother, harm the kids, something of that nature would go on. While they didn't put that in detail in the film, that's what you could the conclusion you could kind of draw from the interactions with Mad Dog and his kids and their mother at the time. So the other thing that came up as a flashback is a scene where one of the kids is holding a gun. You never see which kid it is, but is holding a gun and shoots their father because he is attacking their mother. So let that rest. For those of you who haven't seen it, just kind of put that on the sticky side of your brain. We'll come back to it later. So you have Jason, who's doing well. He has a job. He's taking care of his mother. He is the man of the house. He is the protector and co-provider in the house. His mother is also working. And together they maintain things. Joshua is just getting out of prison again. Jason goes and picks him up, brings him back home, and that's where the drama begins. And so you see throughout the movie where Jason is trying to take care of his younger brother and, get him back on the right track. And his brother keeps going back to what he knows and what he's familiar with and what he's comfortable with. And again, the other narrative that comes up is that, we're in this place, we're trapped in this place, we might as well make the best of it. This is where we're from, and this is all we can expect. And you heard that from a number of characters. Jason and Lyric were the two people who had a little more hope, a little more desire to work towards better. And for a lot of Black people, that looks like leaving this neighborhood, this type of neighborhood, and becoming more affluent. And there's that constant little battle between, forgetting about home in order to get better and acknowledging where you're from. Story for another day. And so what you see between the two brothers is this kind of back and forth, if you know this story, you start to go, okay, who's good, who's bad, who's hurt, who's hiding, kind of thing. Something came to mind while I was watching it and considering the relationship between the brothers and that common thread of the trauma that they experienced having hand in and witnessing their father's death. That's something they carried with them throughout. It's the thing that made Jason more protective over his mother and more of a father figure to his brother. There's a saying that I've seen floating around social media that says the love you didn't receive when you were younger is the love that you look for as an adult. And so, Jason had the benefit of understanding his father's love. And the way it played out was in him stepping into that role of manhood, because it was all of a sudden, it was gone. It was gone. And for Joshua, he didn't have enough time with his father. He didn't necessarily remember the good times. He saw his dad after Vietnam, and that is the character that he held on to. Okay, so he's sitting here upset because he never had the loving father that he needed. And he's going out and looking for that kind of acceptance that he needed from his dad when he was younger, post-Vietnam. He's looking for that kind of acceptance elsewhere. And he keeps going back to it, going back to it, going back to it. It's interesting to see how that plays out and to get the full story behind the father's death. As far as the romance between Jason and Lyric, it's complicated by some other people. Okay, so as I mentioned, Alonzo, played by Treach, is Lyric's brother. Her brother deals with a gang of people. They carjack, they have a chop shop, they rob, steal, whatever they can do to make that coin. Joshua ends up falling in line with them. So now you got Alonzo, who has Joshua in his clutches. You got Jason and Lyric dating. And so that puts tension because, of course, Treach thinks he's the man anyway. And he thinks he has a say in who his little sister can be around and whether that's good or not. And then it turns into something completely different, bloody, and tragic. I'll leave it there again, because if you haven't seen the movie, if you haven't watched it in a while, definitely I want you to go watch it and kind of pull your own things out of it. In general, this movie, it wasn't trash, but it didn't necessarily get the 5-star rating that people would have liked for it to have gotten. And some of the issues I kind of alluded to here, where, the film is called Jason's Lyric, but it didn't focus on, I'm not going to say it didn't focus, it couldn't fully focus on the relationship between Lyric and Jason. More could have been done in that area if the focus was there. But it does a pretty good job from beginning to end showing this dynamic between these two brothers. Could more have been done with that? Sure, but it wouldn't have been called Jason's Lyric at that point. It would have been called Jason's brother. So, in general, I think I probably agree with the mid-range reviews. Again, having seen the movie 20 years later, and having a different understanding of storytelling. I'd say this was kind of mid-range. I give it grace because this was one of the first Black films of the early 90s that was like, you know what? We're going to go ahead and show Black folks in love. Not the Black guy not getting a girl, not the Black guy getting with a white girl, not the Black girl having love and then tragically losing it. We are going to show two Black people who fall in love from the beginning and they're committed to each other. I think on that end, they did well. Could have done more, but they did well. But this was important at that time, kind of reframing the narrative around Black people. We've had from that films like Love and Basketball, The Best Man, Stella Got Her Groove Back, just a whole lot of things that surrounded Black man, Black woman love. So I think I'll give this 4.5 out of 5 stars because it's a great story. This is one of the classics, one of the Black film classics, I feel. And, it's because it really spoke of what we were seeing at that time, what was being promoted about Black folks and what we were trying to rewrite and shift. So again, if you haven't seen it, great film. see it. Take a walk down memory lane. For those of you who grew up in the 90s, you 90s kids, you'll be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember this. And when you sit there and go, well, why didn't someone pick up a cell phone and call? It was a different time, very different time. So that's what I have for you today. I would love for you to share your ideas of the film, how it was different for you today watching it versus however many years ago when you first saw it in the theater or saw it on BET or whatever. Talk about it. What do you think about the theme of the romance? Did they nail it? Didn't they nail it? Was it good for that time? Does it translate well to right now? If they remade the movie, would that relationship look the same? Or is there another way to tell that story and make it prominent? What would that look like? So anyway, looking forward to your comments. Leave them below. Don't forget to like, follow, share. Tell your wife, tell your kids about movies that move. We're here every week, unless we take a break, every week, 5 p.m. on Sundays. Join the discussion. And thank you again so much for watching and supporting us over this time. Until next time, friends. See you later. Bye.